Welcome to INN CEO Talks. Joining me today is James Macintosh, the President and Director of Graycliff Exploration, which trades on the CSE under the symbol GRAY, on the OTCQB under the symbol GRYCF, and on the Frankfurt under the symbol GE0. Graycliff is in the business of gold exploration, plain and simple. Its website boldly states Graycliff exploring for high-grade gold in the shadow of a historic headframe. The company's Shakespeare Gold Project has completed Phase 2 and is now engaged in Phase 3 of drilling. And the company has a second project, the Baldwin Project, which we'll also talk to with Mr. Macintosh, who has over 34 years of experience in mining, mineral exploration, mining research, analysis, corporate finance, and management of both public and private resource companies. A great depth of knowledge and experience. Jamie, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I look forward to letting people know a little bit more about Graycliff and why we love it so much.
Well, you've got a pretty exciting story, and you've just gone through a successful second round of financing. How much did you raise, and how are you planning on applying those funds?
So while we were fairly well funded for 2022 exploration, we were able to access another drill. So we then expanded the amount of drilling we were going to do in Phase 3. So before Christmas, we finished another basically 24 holes in Phase 3. And so we're now awaiting the assay results of those. But we'll do a significant amount of drilling. We'll probably exceed 6,000 or 7,000 meters in total in Phase 3. And then following the work that we're doing right now, which includes Airborne Geophysics, and that's just being finished off right now, we should have some really interesting targets to drill in the next phase, so Phase 4.
Well, let's tell viewers a little bit more about your Shakespeare project. Where is it? What's its history? Where are you going from here?
So one of the reasons we picked up the Shakespeare Project when we put the company together in August of 2019 was the fact that it is essentially 8 kilometers off the Trans-Canada Highway and 80 kilometers west of Sudbury in the most prolific area in Ontario. It's in that wonderful greenstone belt, right at the junction of some very interesting geologic areas with a lot of deformation, a lot of faulting. There's a regional fault that cuts right through our property that's over 250 kilometers long. And so we have 6 kilometers of strike along a mineralized trend. But what we're doing as we started in Phase 1 and Phase 2 is to go back and actually look in the area of the historic headframe. It's known as the Miller Shaft. So we've had some great success to date.
Okay, why is it called the Miller Shaft? There's got to be a story behind
Miller
that.
Miller was a prospector around the turn of the century, and in around 1901, 1902, he found a sample that was close to 250 ounces per ton. And so they sank the shaft right there. And they hand built 6 layers. They went down by hand, 6 layers, each sort of level being about 50 feet, and mined about 3,000 ounces by hand. So over 2 or 3 years. So yeah, incredible. And then, things change and the property basically sat there for quite a while. Some other people looked at it, but there wasn't anyone that really stepped back and said, how did the gold form? What are the stages of mineralization? And so that's one of the things we've been doing, and that's why we focused Phase 1 directly around the shaft. And then Phase 2 and Phase 3, we've been stepping out a little bit farther. So, I mean, when you look back at this and you realize that, you've got an area that's got all sorts of base metal mineralization. It's got nickel. It's got uranium on the north end of the property. It's got copper, lead, zinc. We're finding copper, lead, zinc in almost every drill hole. We're reporting the gold because that's what we're exploring for, but we're certainly getting anomalous values of base metals as well. And when you look at what we achieved in the first week, drilled 7 holes in phase 1. 5 of them were anomalous, and that included over 4 meters of 5 grams. Another section was 5 meters of 5.3 grams, and then another 5 meters of 8.6 grams. So we had some really good numbers in phase 1. But then we followed it up with phase 2, where we had 8 of 14 holes hit anomalous gold. And so we know there's a lot of gold in this property. It's figuring out how much and where we go to find even more along strike. And that's really what we're focused on now. I mean, when we got to phase 2, hole 8 and hole 9 were over 16 meters of, one was 13 grams and the other was 16 meters of 16 grams. So those are good large sections, and they really tie together nicely. If you look at our website, you can see some of the cross sections, and some of those cross sections are 116 meters wide with anomalous gold. So we're pretty excited. The best one we probably got out of the second phase was hole 21, and that was 4 meters of 19 grams with another section in it that was about a half a meter of over 100 grams. So
Okay.
we know there's gold. It's just how much gold there is. So we're pretty excited. Phase 3, as I said, we've done almost 4,000 meters of drilling in phase 3, and now we're waiting for assays. So I feel bad for the poor assay labs because, of course, with COVID and trying to get people to work and also now with Omicron, having people healthy in the lab to do the assaying, we will be a little bit behind, but we are looking forward to getting some results out very soon, and then we'll have a good steady flow of information over the next couple of months.
So what are your plans? Do you see vending in with a major, or with this sounding so promising, are you thinking?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because with this project, because we're so close to Sudbury and it's an 80-kilometer drive and it's a brownfield site, means that it's much easier to develop than it would be otherwise. Yeah. And the other thing that makes it stand apart is the fact that the shaft is at the top of a fairly significant cliff. And that's related to the fault, or probably a splay off of the main fault. But it means the road is close to 250 feet below the shaft. So going in, you could go in on a ramp. You could actually ramp down quite significantly from the number 3 adit, which comes right to the road. And so there's a lot of options for us. But one of the things that we really like is, with 2 properties, the Baldwin property we picked up because it had the assessment report showed very similar geology to what we're finding at Shakespeare. But the Baldwin was only ever explored for uranium after the Second World War. And so they never really assayed they only assayed for uranium. So the drill core was never assayed for any other materials. And so we're really excited because we think there's a fairly good potential of finding more gold at Baldwin. And when you put the 2 of the properties together, if you can find significant resources at Baldwin, you got the makings of a new Ontario gold camp. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, I don't know how else to acknowledge that it truly is exciting. And so right now, you're a little uncertain as to what your plans are. But for an investor, they're going, okay, tell me why is this the moment that I should really be looking at your company?
So the Airborne Geophysics that we did is over both properties because they're that close together. They're literally side by side. And so the Airborne will know the signatures of where we're finding gold on Shakespeare, and it will give us some really good targets on Baldwin. And we have done very little sampling at all on Baldwin yet. We just haven't had time. And so that's going to be, I think, a really important feature coming into 2022. But the other thing is we've got, basically 24 holes that we've already drilled that are at the assay lab. So we have those coming out as well. So it's a really good time. Like all juniors, we got beat up at Christmas, year-end tax loss selling. I firmly believe that Graycliff is fundamentally undervalued. So I think it's an excellent time to pick up some Graycliff.
Well, that's wonderful. As you say, we maybe have to wait a few extra weeks to get some of those results back.
Yeah.
But within the next 2 to 3 months, hopefully you'll come back, give us updates, and let viewers have insights into the next phases as you move forward.
Yeah, thank you, and I hope I will be able to. I think the one thing that I love when people ask me about Graycliff and why we got interested, it's got a tight structure. We've only got 30 million shares, 36 fully diluted, and we've got an excellent team. With Bruce Durham, a very seasoned, credited with some of the Hemlo discoveries. Bruce is an excellent technical advisor, and Don McKinnon is our other technical advisor, also a seasoned professional with extensive experience in Ontario. And that makes it pretty exciting for us, because in a time when a lot of juniors are having a hard time finding geologists and drillers, we have a really dedicated team. And the majority of our team are shareholders, which is I think that sets us apart a little bit, because they want what's best for everybody, which is we're all shareholders.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for bringing us, up to speed and giving us more insight into the company and the team that you have. And I look forward to seeing you again in the coming months.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate your time.
And likewise.